Hello, this is Eki from ET Music, and I teach piano and voice lessons. If you could hit that like button and that subscribe button, it would be much appreciated. You can also find my Facebook page link down in the description, finding out more about piano and voice lessons online. Welcome back to ET Music. In our last video, we talked about the musical alphabet and how that looked on the keyboard. And now we're going to go over finding those letters on the staff. Now, a couple of things before we get into that. Just wanted to go over a few definitions to make this easier to understand. First, these are notes. This is a whole note, this is a half note, a quarter note, and an eighth note. The difference between these labels is how long you hold these notes. But for now, we're just gonna worry about the fact that they're notes. These are clef signs. This one may look really familiar to you. It's the most common clef that we see. I'll tell you what these function as, but I just wanted to give you the label. So this guy right here that you normally see is called the G clef. This guy right here is the F clef. And here is the C clef. All right, there's some definitions for you. Let's get right into it. Usually you're used to seeing music as something like this. Now I want to show you the different parts of it, how they work, how you can find the actual letter from the musical alphabet. In our last video, we talked about the musical alphabet, how it goes from A to G, and then it starts all over. A to G, and it continues on in that pattern on the keyboard. This group of 5 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the spaces in between them are called a staff. Each line and space represent a letter in the musical alphabet. Let's say I take that half note here and I place the note in this space here. So that represents a letter in the alphabet. And then say I take a quarter note and I place it with the line going through it. That represents another letter in the alphabet. These are the two ways that you'll see notes. They can be either in a space or have a line going through the center of it. Now, how do we know what letter these certain notes represent? That's where the clef signs come in. You'll find the clef signs at the beginning of the staff. And when I say the beginning, meaning all the way to the left, because we read music the same way we read a book. We read from left to right. And when we're done with that line, we go to the next line, read from left to right, next line to the bottom, and so on and so forth. So at the beginning of our line, we'll find the clef sign. We're going to start with the most familiar one, the G clef. We'll see why it's called the G clef. So if I take this and I draw it on the staff, and I start here on this second line, and I circle around that second line, that's my focus. The middle of that circle. Whatever line that the G clef starts on and is focused on and is centered on, that line is now the letter G. Very uncommon, but for certain instruments, it can be found on a different line. Say it starts on this bottom line here and it circles around there, then that bottom line is G. When the G clef is circled around that second line, it's called the treble clef. That probably sounds familiar to you guys. So with the treble clef, that second line is G. Now we know this note that's placed with that line going through the middle of it, that's G. Now to find the other notes on the staff, you can use the alphabet. The lines and the spaces go in order alphabetically from bottom to top. So if we know that this line is G, we can also know that this next space above it, because they go in order by line and space. For this space above that line, and we draw a note, let's just draw a whole note. A whole note in that space. Now we know that that note is H. You got me. There is no H in the musical alphabet. Just like we talked about before in the other video, the musical alphabet goes from A to G and then it restarts. So that is not H, it's A. And then so on and so forth. So if that's A, we know that this line going through this half note here, that is B. And that's how we find the letters on the staff or in music. I'll go over the other clefs in another video. Now, as we talked about in the other video, the sets of the alphabet found on the keyboard repeat themselves. And each of those sets is actually called an octave. So a set from A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then restarting on the next set, A, B, C, D, F, G. Each of those sets is called an octave. There's 7 full octaves on the standard piano or keyboard. This G represents the G in the 4th octave, or G4 on the keyboard. Now we know exactly where that key of all 88 keys on the piano, we know exactly which one this note indicates. One, because of the G clef on the second line, or the treble clef, and this is always going to be G4 on the piano. So now we know that's G4, and then the octave starts again on the next note. So now we're on A5, and so on and so forth. In our next video, we'll go over the other clefs and how we can find the letters using those clefs, and then also the difference between these notes up here and how long we hold them and how they make rhythm. Thank you for watching. Thanks for watching ET Music. Please like and subscribe. Find my information below in the description to sign up for lessons if you want to learn more. See you in the next video.